We start in Venezuela, where thousands of people have taken to the streets of Caracas to show their support for President Nicolas Maduro. Marchers flocked to the capital from across the country to condemn the attempt on the president's life on Saturday. The United Socialist Party of Venezuela made a call for citizens to defend Venezuela's sovereignty regardless of their political allegiance. The demonstration headed towards the Miraflores presidential palace, where they were addressed by the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Jorge Arias. Other marches are also taking place across the country.
This is the time for national unity. We will not allow blood to be spilled in our homeland. This was a chapter, and we know there will be other chapters of aggression and violence. But if we have already defeated attempts of coups, sabotages, guarimbas, if we have defeated terrorism with democracy in our National Constituent Assembly, if we have defeated oligarchy many times, rest assured that we will continue to defeat them, because the people are with the Bolivarian Revolution and with President Maduro.
Earlier, our correspondent in Caracas, Veronica in South, sent this report from the demonstration as marchers flooded the streets of the capital.
I am at a rest stop for citizens that have been marching for hours to support President Nicolas Maduro. Demonstrations are taking place not only in Caracas, but also in different provinces across the country. Individuals have joined social organizations and political movements to reject the attack President Maduro suffered last Saturday. We must recall that yesterday, the Interior Minister said that 6 people were arrested and linked to the assassination attempt, but the investigation continues in order to identify the attack masterminds. Foreign Minister Jorge Arias also met the diplomatic corps and with representatives of international organizations to deliver information on the event and to ratify the rejection of this action. Both Arias and President Maduro believe that the masterminds of this assassination attempt are based in Bogota and Miami. For now, we will be following the Citizens' March and will keep you updated.
We, the indigenous people in Venezuela, are giving the president our full support, solidarity, and loyalty. I think that the bad intentions from the far-right wing are being exposed. They have an aim, and that is to put an end to this president and the Bolivarian Revolution. The people in Venezuela are conscious, and we are here in the streets proving our unconditional loyalty to the president.
I'm here supporting our president, peace and democracy. Here are the Venezuelan people showing the world that we are a peaceful country, that we will not allow this attack against the president, and we will fight to defend our homeland.
The Attorney General of Venezuela, Tarek William Saab, described the assassination attempt as the attempted massacre of the president, his executive cabinet, and the representatives of the public powers of the republic.
It wasn't only an assassination attempt against the president, who was the main target. It should also be described as a massacre, because we were there, and there were also leaders of the public powers and the military high command. If the goal was for the drones with explosives to reach the stage, let's imagine what would have happened.
So let's look at how Saturday's assassination attempt unfolded.
On Saturday, the 4th of August, President Maduro attended the 81st anniversary celebration of the Bolivarian National Guard in Caracas, on Bolivar Avenue. Addressing the parade with hundreds of soldiers, he thanks them for their efforts in nation-building and reiterated his commitment to the Venezuelan people.
It is time for the economic recovery we need.
Cover him! Cover him! Cover him! Fast, fast!
A blast rocked the parade area. Chaos started, but President Maduro stood at the podium calmly, trying to understand what was going on as his bodyguards covered him with armor and took him away. The defense minister, Pedrino Lopez, confirmed that 2 drones loaded with explosives were used to attack the president. One exploded over the parade ground. The other drone hit a building and exploded, injuring 7 National Guard soldiers. Police and intelligence agencies were quick to respond. They raided several locations and hotels, and soon 6 suspects were arrested.
6 terrorists, killers detained, several vehicles confiscated, various raids have been carried out in the capital, where very important evidence has been collected.
President Maduro asked people to maintain peace in the country and not to panic despite the shocking attack. The foreign minister on Sunday, Jorge Arreaza, held a press conference to assure all Venezuelans and the world that the foundation of the Bolivarian Revolution is strong enough not to be shaken by this act of violence, and that the government of Venezuela will do everything to maintain peace.
And those who are thinking of a civil war in Venezuela, those who support a civil war from outside, and those who do it perhaps unconsciously because of their political positions on what's happening in Venezuela, we ask you for it to reflect. We will not tire a single second in avoiding confrontation between the people in Venezuela.
President Nicolas Maduro, who was re-elected for a second term in May, commands a huge support base, and in spite of Western sanctions on the country, he's introduced several economic reforms to bring the struggling economy back on track. Hopes of 31 million Venezuelans lie on his shoulders. An attack on him is an attack on the Venezuelan people.
Leaders and social movements across the world have shown their solidarity and support for the Venezuelan people after the attack.
Venezuelan Foreign Minister Jorge Arreaza thanked international support who continued to send messages of solidarity from around the world.
The demonstrations, expressions of solidarity and support to President Maduro, to the Bolivarian government and its authorities has been almost an avalanche. They don't stop arriving. Governments, political parties, social movements, personalities expressing through communiques and on social media. And President Maduro and the Venezuelan state are extremely grateful for these expressions of solidarity.
Bolivian President Evo Morales was among the first to publicly denounce the attack, saying that the attempted assassination is a crime against humanity and only shows the desperation of an empire defeated by a brave people. Nicaragua's President Daniel Ortega wrote, quote, "With a heart full of indignation, with the sacred fire of our revolutionary brotherhood, our strong condemnation to those cowardly terrorists." Miguel Díaz-Canel, Cuba's new president, and former President Raúl Castro expressed their full solidarity with President Maduro, as did Argentina's Communist Party.
En primer lugar, queremos denunciar.
We stand in solidarity with President Maduro and the people of Venezuela, who have been promoting a transforming revolution. The progress of the right wing in Argentina and in the continent should not stop the advances the progressive governments have achieved. We call for unity of people for a better future that depends on participation of all, in order to stop the U.S. imperialism and the far-right groups. More strength to Maduro and for the people of Venezuela.
South African ruling party ANC said they were shocked and described the attack as barbaric. They also wished the president and people of Venezuela strength during this difficult time. Fernando Cebamos from the Panamanian Broad Front for Democracy sent this message.
We have expressed our full support to the constitutional government of Venezuela, also to the people who have participated in the peaceful election in the country. We respect their decision to embrace peace. They should follow the path of peace, and we stand in solidarity with them from Panama.
The government of Uruguay outright rejected the act of violence and expressed solidarity with the victims and their families. The national coordinator of Act Now to Stop War and End Racism Coalition, Brian Becker, also sent his message of support.
The attempt to liquidate the Bolivarian Revolution, to carry out through illegal criminal acts, through assassination attempts, to end this political process known as the Bolivarian Revolutionary Process, the struggle for justice, that's to be predicted. And we know that the U.S. CIA and U.S. intelligence agencies have carried out numerous threats and acts against sovereign leaders who try to keep their country free and independent from the United States.
The government of the Dominican Republic and the Prime Minister of Antigua and Barbuda, Gaston Brown, also released statements condemning the attack. On his part, Prime Minister of Dominica said all law-abiding global citizens should stand in condemnation of the calculated and cowardly act against the Venezuelan people.
More news in a minute, but first here's a video from our colleagues in multimedia. Welcome back. In Mexico, a number of mining projects are in progress which could seriously pose a threat to indigenous territories within the country. But residents of places like Huasteca have organized themselves to defend the lands of their ancestors.
The Huasteca Potosina, one of the most important biodiverse areas in Mexico, is threatened by the extractivist efforts, which have been favored by the federal government. At the same time, residents have been increasingly protesting in defense of the territory.
With almost 4 months until the current government of Enrique Peña Nieto comes to an end, the government is trying to take advantage of its remaining time in office and handing over natural resources to international companies.
It has been proven that the extraction of gas by the method known as hydraulic fracture or fracking has severe environmental impacts.
It would terribly affect water, land, air, biodiversity, and indigenous communities because they use 300 tons of chemicals in each well.
The original inhabitants of this land have been organizing to resist these extractivist projects.
Mexico's energy reform was not properly consulted with the citizens, nor with the indigenous peoples.
Indigenous peoples say they are not willing to end their way of life or give up its territories.
We are opposed to this, but we also propose options that are from our perspective, from the indigenous peoples, and not from the perspective from above, which are different to our cultural, economic, and social view.
Mexico has registered at least 924 sites in 6 states where there is a gas extraction potential for the fracking method, some of them with drilling which began dating back to 2003.
Brazil's Workers' Party has confirmed its electoral alliance with the Communist Party of Brazil and have named Fernando Haddad as the candidate for vice president. The decision was revealed at a press conference over the weekend when Brazil's Workers' Party also held its national convention in Sao Paulo to officially confirm Lula da Silva as its presidential candidate. In a letter to the party, Lula expressed regret for his first absence from a national party convention in 38 years.
It has been a weekend full of political updates from Brazil. The Workers' Party have finally announced Lula da Silva officially as their candidates for the presidential elections in October. And it was a big party for the Workers' Party convention, but Lula was not there. Lula is still in jail in Curitiba, where he has been for the past 4 months. And this morning, this Monday, the Workers' Party have announced that Lula is not running alone. He has finally a running mate, and it is Fernando Haddad, a former mayor of Sao Paulo. And they also announced Manuela Dávila from the Communist Party of Brazil as the vice president for Lula da Silva. So this means an alliance between the Workers' Party and the Communist Party of Brazil and 2 other parties. So they are strengthening their coalition to increase their chances on the election. Of course, this means that the party is preparing preparing for the chance that Lula da Silva might not be allowed to run because he has been convicted on the second instance in Brazil. So this means that Fernando Haddad would be the running candidate for the Workers' Party, and Manuela Dávila would be his running mate. And on the other side of the political spectrum, Jair Bolsonaro, the right-wing candidate that he has been in front of almost all the polls, has also announced his running mate, and it is a general, former army general, which has had some controversial comments lately. He has supported someone accused of torture in the dictatorship, and he has also mentioned a possible military intervention in Brazil. So this pick for his vice president is very controversial in Brazil right now, but it also marks another alliance between Bolsonaro's party, PSL, and a small right-wing party that this general belongs to. And what we are seeing now is that this creation of alliances, which will be the key to a victory in this very controversial electoral campaign, in which we will see if the electoral court will say if Lula cannot run or not.
A day before the new government of Colombia takes office, social leaders remain deeply concerned over guarantees to their safety.
We make a call for social organizations and people who support us to mobilize tomorrow. For this, we have been working on for so long at a regional and national level. I'm talking about security for organizations, social leaders, and human rights activists.
Argentinian education workers have been on strike for almost a week now. Our correspondent in Argentina, Edgardo Esteban, has the latest.
The
university education workers' strike has lasted almost a week in Argentina. It started because of the lack of concrete responses from the government of Mauricio Macri to address the cost of living. The government has offered a maximum of 15% wage increase, but the inflation is going to be more than 30%. A document has been submitted to the education minister to complain about the economic situation, as well as the university's budget, scientific and technological investigation, everything related to development, and that public education is an investment which is being harmed by the policies of Mauricio Macri's government. The apathy of the current government is reflected in the deaths of the 2 education workers in the municipality of Moreno that took place last week, near the capital. The workers have stated that they will have a national plenary on Friday, and if there aren't concrete responses to these complaints, the demonstrations will continue next week.
Jamaica is celebrating the 56th anniversary of independence from the British Commonwealth after more than 300 years of colonial rule. Prime Minister Andrew Holness and other government officials attended a national emancipation and independence church service as part of these celebrations. Over the weekend, Holness said that Jamaicans have a commitment to protect the environment and said that following independence celebrations, he would be making announcements regarding legislation on plastics and styrofoam.
It cannot be that we use our independence, our freedom as it were, to litter our environment and to light our dump on fire. It cannot be.
And Bolivia is celebrating its 193rd year of independence. President Evo Morales led the ceremony that took place in Potosi to commemorate the creation of the Republic on August 6, 1825, after decades of fight against Spanish rule. For the first time, and as part of these celebrations, the Assembly held a special tribute session. Morales honored several indigenous leaders like Tupac Katari, who started the fight for independence and freedom in 1781. The 193rd anniversary of independence of Bolivia was also celebrated in Havana, Cuba. After paying tribute to Simón Bolívar, the ambassador of Bolivia in Cuba, Juan Ramón Quintana, highlighted the importance of unity in order to fulfill the dreams of freedom and sovereignty of the people. Quintana also reiterated that Evo Morales has worked to create a new country with the official recognition of indigenous peoples and the fair distribution of wealth. Barbadians wearing elaborate costumes have taken over the streets of the capital, dancing and parading to soca music, as today is Grand Kaduma Day, which signals the end of crop over, which is the Barbadian carnival celebrations. Masqueraders traditionally start from the National Stadium and proceed along a route that includes the Spring Garden Highway for a day of partying on the streets. Carnival is also being celebrated in Antigua. These are scenes from Juve, which is an early morning dirty mass party on the major streets throughout the island. Partiers covered in mud or paint come out before sunrise to dance behind music trucks playing soca, which is the music of the Caribbean Carnival. The revelers in pretty costumes will come out to the streets later in the day. Time now for a short break, but join us again after this look at what our multimedia colleagues are reporting. Welcome back. Iranian President Hassan Rouhani has dismissed a U.S. call for talks on Tuesday, the eve of the imposition of new sanctions that follows Washington's decision to pull out of the Iran nuclear deal. The United States is due to impose new sanctions against Iran on Tuesday. They are intended to cripple its economy and signals President Donald Trump's decision to break with European allies and exit the 2015 agreement.
The first step would be for U.S. President Donald Trump to show that he genuinely wants to engage in negotiations to solve a problem. What's the meaning of negotiations when you impose sanctions at the same time? It's like someone pulling a knife to stab a rival or an enemy in the arm, while at the same time claiming we will be talking and negotiating. The answer in such a case would be to say, remove the knife from the arm and put the knife away. That person should come to the negotiating table and be logical about negotiating. So I think the real purpose here by the US administration is to engage in psychological warfare and to sow division among Iranians, while at the same time gaining political capital for the upcoming congressional elections. So Trump's talk is either about gaining domestic political advantage in the elections or waging psychological war against the Iranian people.
The state of New York has sued the government of the United States for a pilot program which allows employers to go unpunished for violating labor laws. It permits employers to resolve violations of federal overtime and minimum wage laws without penalties. New York and 9 other states raised concerns about the program, saying that employers would require employees to waive their rights under state laws, which sometimes provide more protection than federal law, in order to receive back wages. Police raided flats in India's northern state of Uttar Pradesh and rescued 24 girls forced into the sex industry. The girls were taken from an illegal shelter home running a sex racket on Sunday, after one of the victims escaped, reached a woman's police station and told her story to the officers there. A superintendent from Uttar Pradesh Police's Deoria district, Rohan P. Kanai, said that according to the girl who escaped, vehicles would come to the home to pick them up. The girls would then return to the home the following morning in tears. Officials said that about 10 to 15 children are still missing. And the Bangladeshi government has passed a new law on road safety after unprecedented mass student protests over the killings of 2 students by a speeding bus last week. The new law gives a 5-year prison sentence for causing death due to reckless driving. Students between the ages of 15 to 18 protested for 10 days. The local media on Monday reported that many students were injured after the police attacked them. There have also been reports of a crackdown on journalists who covered the protest. One renowned photographer has been arrested for allegedly commenting on the mishandling of students by the police. And at least 12 migrant farm laborers have been killed when a van carrying them smashed into a lorry near the city of Foggia in Puglia in southern Italy. Every summer, thousands of laborers from across Europe and Africa work in the area picking tomatoes, and according to the International Organization for Migration, each year a number of deaths of farm workers are reported. The Union Sindicale de Base, or USB labor union, has announced it will go on strike on Wednesday to demand better working conditions in the agro-farm sector. And we leave you with news that an 18-meter-long finback whale has been rescued after being stranded on Faro Beach off the coast of Isla Contor in Mexico. Around 40 rescuers from the Mexican Navy struggled for over 3 hours, but they were able to successfully tow the mammal back to the sea. The finback whale is the 2nd largest living mammal and is on the list of global endangered species. Really shocking footage there. We've come to the end of this news brief. For these and many other stories, you can find them on our website at talisyourtv.net/English. And join us on social media. We are on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. For Talis Your English, I'm Sony Gray. Thank you for watching.